I am very excited to introduce you to Simone Giertz. Her name's spelled differently, but that's how you pronounce it. Simone is Swede-born and a descendant of Ericsson founder Lars Magnus Ericsson. How cool is that? Simone describes herself as the queen of shitty robots, breaker of transistors, mistress of malfunction, mother of terrible inventions. However, I really prefer inventortainer, coined by a Redditor, supposedly. She explored engineering physics in college before finding her true calling on YouTube. I'm not sure why, but her family calls her Pim. You can check out Simone's terribly brilliant creations on her YouTube channel. Googlers, please welcome Simone to Google.
Thank you. I think that this is the first time that I've heard that YouTube is my true calling.
Well, it is at least for now.
I mean, it's legit. But I'm just like, have I said that?
Now you have, yes.
I know, yeah, sure, yeah. YouTube is my true calling.
The YouTube team is clapping wildly somewhere.
Crying, just all emotional.
So before talking about shitty robots, I'm completely jealous about your recent Vomit Comet trip that you included on your YouTube channel as part of your astronaut training. Describe how it works, and what I'm most interested in is what it's like that moment you become weightless.
So a little bit of background story. I took a month-long break from shitty robots because I really want to go to space. I'm 100% serious about it, and I actually got funding from Google to do it, from Google's Making and Science team, so thanks for that. But I got to go on the Vomit Comet, a zero-G flight on the last episode. So basically it's this airplane that does parabolas, so it goes up and down really fast, so you get to experience what it's like to be weightless. And first of all, I had to pee really badly, which because you're both worried about vomiting and about peeing at the same time. So it was a lot of body fluids to keep in check, I feel like 25% of my brain power went to that. But it was the craziest feeling because you're laying down on the floor. And first you experience an increased amount of G-forces because you're accelerating. And then you just get lighter and lighter. And it feels exactly as if you pictured meditating and you'd start levitating because you just very slowly float up. And it actually made me really sad because while it felt like the wildest and weirdest thing I'd ever experienced, it also felt so natural. Because I was like, yeah, of course this is something that humans do. And I think every human being dreams about flying and what it's like to be flying. And it was just this is what I'm made for. And then you get back to gravity and you're like, no, I'm bound to this big dirt ball.
Gravity sucks.
Gravity is the biggest downer on planet Earth. Yeah, I've used that joke before. Yeah.
We got to work on who's the no gravity team? It's got to be one in Google somewhere. So you talked your way into a job as a professional maker for a startup in the Bay Area. How hard was it to walk away from basically a real job and find your way to make a living on your own? Were you constantly convincing your friends and family that it wasn't a huge mistake?
So that was not the way it happened. It was more, because I did have a great job. So I started learning, I dropped out of college after a year. So I started studying physics, but I dropped out because I just felt it was a little bit too dry. And I really wanted to learn about electronics because I saw these different DIY projects that people were building, and I thought that they were super cool. And I remember being like, should I go back to school for it, or should I try and learn by my own? And what I decided on was no, I should try and get a job in the field so I can get paid to learn about it. So I got a job as a maker in residence at a company that makes a microcontroller or an Arduino board called the Light Blue Bean, and they're here in the Bay Area. And it was really great. The job was super fun, but I just wasn't very enthusiastic about it. And I decided to quit because I realized that I've tried out a lot of different things. I've had a lot of different jobs. And it was it's like trying on different pairs of pants. Mm-hmm. And you're like, these pants kind of work, but they're crawling up my butt a little bit, or these ones are a little bit too short. And you're just trying out all these different jobs and work. to see what fits you. And that was like, yeah, it's like, right, I love what I'm doing, but it's like the setting of it doesn't really work. So it was actually that I quit my job not knowing what I was gonna do, and I decided to move back to Sweden and to like cut back on all of my costs. So I moved back with my mom. I lived on like 0.5 gigabyte of data every month. You know, yeah, it was rough. But all of this just, and I try to work as little as I had just to make a living, just so I could free up a lot of time to spend on whatever I wanted and to pursue like what I was enthusiastic about. And from that like platform, or from that time that I freed up, was where I started building these shitty robots. So it wasn't, I mean, yeah, maybe it was the way you said it, but my parents have always been very supportive and were like, yeah, do whatever you want, it'll be fine. I think it's more been my brother. My brother was like, I remember him at some point being like, Simone, he calls me the walking life crisis. He's like, Simone, if you're ever gonna do something great, you have to like settle down on like what you're gonna do, or like choose a field and like go for it and spend more than a year on it. But I think it was, yeah, it actually wasn't that hard of a decision. It would have been harder to stay. Yeah.
So you mentioned you don't have an engineering degree, but you've got creative ideas, experiment and build stuff, which sounds like engineering to me and probably a lot of people in the room. A maker for sure. Do you see yourself in any way as a role model and stereotype buster for girls interested in tech?
You know, I struggle with that one. In part, I often like get the question if I see myself as the role model for girls. And in some way, like what I hear is, and I think there's like something inherently wrong with it, because it's like people have this perspective that as a woman, you can only be a role model for girls. And people are always like, you're such a great role model for girls. And I think actually it's just as important for men to have female role models as for girls to have female role models. So, I mean, and I mean, that's aside from me probably not being a great role model in many ways. But I'm like telling myself that people can cherry pick the good parts and like exclude the bad parts. But I mean, I hope, I mean, to me, it was also, I mean, it was really important to see other. It does get like stronger when you see another woman or somebody you can identify a little bit more with doing the thing that you want to do. And it wasn't until I saw a woman giving a talk on hardware hacking that I was like, wait, like if she can do it, I can do it too. Because you realize, because I was always interested in building things and making things, but I never saw myself as somebody being interested in technology and electronics. And I think that's just like because you've been brought up with the stereotype of like, oh, this is the type of person that would be interested in it. And it takes seeing somebody who you can identify yourself with to be like, wait, this is all just bullshit. It doesn't make sense, yeah.
So what's the first, a lot of people who go down an engineering or maker path, they've taken something apart that they probably weren't supposed to, or they've built something. So what's the first thing you took apart? What's the first thing you built that you remember?
Well, I'm just about to take this mic apart. The first thing I remember, and a kind of cool project, we had this like old, what's it called in English? Like satellitdisk? You know when you're getting television? You know television? A satellite dish? Like the big like parabola, or like the big thing you had on your house that was white?
Yeah.
So we had one of those and that we were gonna throw away. And I was like, that looks cool. And I turned it into a chair when I was like 9. Cool. So I like built up, it was the most uncomfortable chair.
Did it get good reception though?
You kind of like slid out of it because it's like very like just round. So I built like a little podium under it. I think that was the first. But I remember I attempted to build a robot when I was like 7 or 8. And I had this like grand idea of what this robot would be, but all I got to was I got a block of wood and I drilled a hole through the wood and I put a stick through the hole. And it was a robot because if you wiggled one end of the stick, the other end would move too. And I was like, yeah, I just built a robot. It wasn't that hard. What are people talking about? Like, whatever. It moves.
So, what's been the response been to Toy Hackers, this partnership you have with Golding Blocks, and how'd that come about?
So to me, it's like a constant. A lot of people think that I'm doing like kids content because like if you just see the little videos of my projects, it looks like it's something for kids, but then I'm just not very kid friendly in my sense of humor. So I've been trying, and I like constantly I'm surrounded by disappointed parents all the time because they're like, I just really want to be able to show this to my son, but I can't because you keep dropping the F-bomb and the D-bomb and the C-bomb and all the bombs. No, I did not say that.
George
Oh my
Carlin
God.
list, pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'm trying to find ways in which I can like give kids good content to watch or watch my videos. So I've been collaborating with Goldie Blox, which is this toy company that has like a female heroine. This is really cool inventor. And we did a toy hacker series. And they're also gonna roll out censored versions of my videos. So like kid-friendly versions. So yeah, which I'm really excited about. So there will be kid-friendly versions living on their channel. So I can just be like, hey parents, don't be upset with me. I've done my part of it.
Very cool.
But yeah, no, it's actually really nice because as much as like my content isn't that kid friendly, it's when you have like 10-year-olds write you and be like, hey, I built this thing inspired by this thing you did, that like, you're like, I'm so good. You just get emotional from feeling so great about yourself.
So you kind of mentioned this with your brother. I'm not sure how you could have planned for the success you found online. Is having a master plan for your life or even the weekend coming up totally overrated?
I mean, it really depends. So when I was younger, I always had like 5-year plans. I was like the Russian economy. I was like, this is what I'm gonna do in the next 5 years. And then it never happens. So now I think it's like, I try to not have a plan. So I've been doing this for 1.5 years. It's been happening pretty quickly. It was 1.5 years ago since I published my first shitty robot. And I've realized that like when you kind of get dragged into this like high pace thing, it's like hard because everybody wants you to have a plan. And I'm trying to, because it really started as something that I did just because I was enthusiastic about it. And I'm trying not to have a plan because I feel that as soon as I have that and I'm like, I'm gonna do this is like the trajectory, I feel like I'm gonna kill my enthusiasm and that's just gonna kill it itself. But I do think I have long-term goals, like going to space. And I also wanna go in a deep sea submarine.
That's covering like the whole spectrum.
Yeah, that's covering, yeah, so like really low and really high. And yeah, but I try not to like limit myself to it. But I mean, it all depends on what I freak out whenever I feel that I'm like cornered into something. So I think if I was like, this is what I'm gonna do and I'm gonna lock myself into it. I mean, I've been really like trying to not lock myself into any contracts or anything like that because I just wanna keep on reminding myself that like, if I wake up tomorrow being like, I never wanna put out another video, that's okay.
I think you should have a YouTube channel that's involuntary space travel, where you just take random people and you put them up in space and see what happens. Anyway, all right. So like, idea that popped into my head. Yeah. So like many YouTube creators, there's a blur between your personal life and your YouTube persona. I'm thinking in particular of your hilarious battle with the septic system of your houseboat, which is so funny. If you have not seen it, if you want to see true
You're horrible.
expression of heart,
You're a horrible person.
It's so funny. How do you protect your privacy, or are you totally given up?
I think for one, it's like, I just try to remind people that like in real life, as much as I'm not like acting like somebody else on my YouTube channel, but you're like a watered down version of the YouTube, because like when you're doing a video, you're basically like, you have like 45 minutes of footage and you just like cut it out and like polish like this little diamond and turn it into like a 4-minute video. So in real life, you're just like a more boring version of that, you know? But I think it's hard because it's like, it's definitely a different type of, my mom's a TV host back in Sweden where I'm from, and she's been a TV host for the last 20 years, and it's like a very different type of celebrity because people, it's like when you're on the internet, people know you more personally and in a more informal setting, and they don't really know like the professional you. So it definitely makes it, it's definitely much more blurred, but I try to, I'm also like an information, just open book. Like I don't have any secrets. I share everything. Like it's compulsive. Like I'm a compulsive oversharer in many ways. So I try to, and I'm fine with like stories about me making a fool out of myself and sharing that. But I am like really reluctant to show footage of my family or the people around me, because I can take people being mean to me in the comments, but if I would have like my sister in a video and they'd be mean to her, I'd just like stab my computer screen, I think, yeah.
So I was interviewing a friend of yours, YouTuber Diana Cowan, recently, and she said she has to block words like kitchen and ears from comments. Don't ask why. It's basically people are evil.
She does get a lot of comments about her ears. It's
Which
so
I
weird.
don't think it's fair.
I don't think I've ever gotten comments about my ears, and I'm like, are they like boring ears?
So how do you deal with trolls, or have you been blissfully not even to deal with that?
So I've only put up one filter on my channel, and I made the mistake of telling people that I put out a filter. So I've seen so many creative spellings of dildo. It's but I think that's probably the only one. I mean, it is like, as I just hit 500,000 subscribers yesterday.
Woo.
Yay!
Is that number 500,000 in the room anywhere? Maybe? No?
No, yeah.
You
look
win,
at
you win the steak knives. There you go.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's great. Cool. So I definitely notice it, like, as you grow, people get progressively meaner and meaner, because like when it's small, it's just the people who've sought you out and who really like it. But as you grow, there's like people who didn't really opt in, and they get very upset about you showing up in their feed. Or like when the worst is like when a video trends on YouTube. So I locked myself in my bathroom for 48 hours, and that one trended on YouTube. And when it does that, it's like you just like have like this little, what do you call like when you're fishing and you just open up a net and you just get all the weird sea creatures. Like you get all of it, all of it. But I'm like scared to talk about it because I don't want to jinx it, but I've been weirdly spared from a lot of hate, and especially being a woman on the internet, which tends to be worse. And like, I mean, it's different on different YouTube channels. Like on the Tested YouTube channel, I work for another YouTube channel called Tested. It's like rougher, or just more like focus on my appearance and my sexual preferences. Very relevant to the videos. But on my YouTube channel, it's actually been really nice. And I don't really know what I've done or haven't done to deserve that. But it's been surprisingly nice.
So maybe on the positive side, you mentioned that a 10-year-old might say, hey, I was inspired to build something. So what's the sweetest, most memorable thing a fan has done that makes everything you're doing worth it?
I mean, it's a lot. I think, now I'm starting to get like messages from people who have gotten into engineering school because they sought it out after like seeing my videos, which feels really weird because you're like, you can like put people on a different life trajectory. So that feels really like an honor to be able to do that. But I think it's also like, I'm a sucker for getting packages, and people send me such nice things and projects that they built. I actually had a guy named Stuart who fabricated this whole robot arm for me. And he like made it out of like custom aluminum. Everything was really polished. He like put like in video footage of him building it. I mean, must have been like taking him a week to make it. And just the fact that somebody would spend that much time just to make you happy is pretty wild. Cool. Yeah.
Well, someone in the audience mentioned Patreon. So you ran into a bit of sponsor trouble that you talked about. And what's been your experience with crowdsourcing financial support as another vehicle? What would you have offer for other creators that want to go that path?
So if you don't know, there is a platform called Patreon. And there are multiple platforms. I'm on Patreon, but where people can give monthly donations to different independent creators. And I think it's such a beautiful thing because it's really a democratization. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Of content creation, because otherwise, I mean, it just makes it a lot. There's something really sad, I find, about being an internet person, because what it's all about is like increasing your value as a billboard for brands. So you kind of sell your audience's attention and the trust that they have for you, and it's just something about that. It feels really dirty. So having alternatives like Patreon is really beautiful, and people can go and support you directly. It's also really scary. Like, I was pretty reluctant to start a Patreon because otherwise I can just be like, I don't owe people anything. I feel like, I mean, I don't know anything, but for my Patreon supporters, I really feel that I'm owing them a lot, and it's like a scary thing in some way, because I'm just like, the worst thing would be if people were disappointed in you, because it'd be like having 2,000 parents who are just like, Simone, we just expected more of you.
That's right. So I think there's some really cool stuff in our world right now that if you go back in time would blow people away. And I think one of those is a 3D printer. So if you could go back in time with a 3D printer, what's a crazy thing you would build? Or maybe what have you built with a 3D printer that you think would blow people away?
I actually made this thing. This might be my best contribution to the world. Do you guys know neti pots?
No, we'll need a background.
That 50%, yeah. Can't believe I'm talking about this. Neti pots? It's like this weird, my dad is like an old hippie yogi dude, and he always had these neti pots. So basically, like, it's like this little pot, and you like pour water through your nose when you have a cold. It's really nasty, but it's very effective if you're sick. So I had a cold, and I was like, I don't have a neti pot. What do? I have a 3D printer. So I made like a little neti pot nozzle that goes on just like a regular bottle. It's the best thing I've ever made. Like, I'm like, it's a legit thing, and that's what I bring to people in medieval times.
Very useful.
And then be like, we have no bottles. I'm like, oh shit.
The hell with the plague. Nutty pots, nutty pots. So what is your worst robot failure that was so bad that it didn't even rate being shitty?
That's tricky. I mean, I feel like it's tricky to say, like, when people ask me like what my shittiest invention is, it's like, or my most useless, it's hard because I've skewed what shitty means, because to me a shitty robot would be that worked really well or that worked poorly but did it in a very uninteresting way. I mean, the shittiest robot is the one that doesn't start, but that's like, I mean, yeah. I think my shittiest invention, I pass on a lot of ideas, so I start building them, and then I'm just like, no, this isn't gonna, it happens fairly rarely, but I think I've started building stuff, and then I'm like, I can't go through with this.
What kind of causes that you start and then you stop, which we do all the time here, you know, things you just decide it's not gonna work?
Either that it's too complicated, I can't do it in a time frame that's worth doing it, but I think, or just that I don't think it's fun or relevant anymore. But I think probably the shittiest machine I've ever made, it's a pun, is the ass wiping robot, probably.
That's pretty shitty.
Yeah. We actually filmed another video on it for Tested, and I don't think we've published it. I don't think we're going to publish it, because a lot of people were disappointed that I didn't. So I did a butt wiping robot, just like a toilet paper roll and a drill, and it just like. And people were so upset in the comments. They're like, Simone, you couldn't even have like put some Nutella up there. Like, this is not believable. And we like filmed a Tested video where we're like, okay, we need to like put something that looks like poop in there. And then like halfway through, when you're holding this like mannequin man, and you're just like, I don't want this to be on the internet. How did we end up here?
Yeah, and I think a mannequin is the only thing that would take that robot, because that looked like it could be a torture device.
Yeah, there's no way I'd put my own butt in there.
No.
Yeah, and I've had that idea for a long time, but I didn't know how to do it, because I was like, I can't do it with anyone's real butt. And I was like, I'll just buy a sitting mannequin. Yeah, he can sue me.
I had a chance to interview Adam Savage several years ago and was struck by how down-to-earth he is. I like to call him an accidental celebrity. I really enjoyed your back and forth with Adam on the show Tested that you mentioned, trying to work out the popcorn machine. Walk me through creating that video, especially the feeling you had when Adam's vacuum-formed hands that he'd created as part of this project and gear arrived, and you had to turn it into a robot. I almost feel like this is from Adam Savage, icon, pressure.
Yeah, it was really intimidating, because he's like, I have no idea what I'm doing, and he really knows what he's doing, even though he wouldn't say so, I think. So we started working together about a year ago now, a little bit more. And the first project we built was a popcorn helmet. So it was like a beer helmet, but instead it was 2 popcorn containers and 2 hands that fed you, so you don't have to use your own hands. And yeah, we collaborated on it, and he did like the hand mechanism, and I got the package. I remember the first thing I did, I have told him this, first thing I did was I looked at the box and I was like, did he like give a signature anyway? Like, could I get his like autograph from here and just like cut it out? I'm like, but it was, I mean, I still like whenever now it's a lot chiller with Tested, but in the beginning I had the worst imposter syndrome. And especially building stuff with him. And before having met him, it was really scary because I was like just sweating, being like, I can't, what if I don't get it together? Are they gonna like fire me? But once you get to know him, he's like the most devoted teacher and mentor. So whenever you like don't know how to do something, it almost feels like it makes him happy. And he's like, oh, I can like explain this thing. So and that just like completely takes the edge off of my fear. So yeah, he's been great. But if he'd be any, I mean, yeah, I think it's all due to him just being very kind. He's very kind.
Cool. That's just what he seems like on the other side of the glass. So you had a terrific segment also on Stephen Colbert's show recently-ish. What happened behind the scenes? Because you only get 6 minutes on television, but you had actually, well, here, if you're in product group, you'll be terrified of any sort of live demo. It's the scariest thing you do. You had multiple live demos that you brought with you. What was it like leading up to that 6 minutes that you can't do anything but do that 6 minutes and you're done?
It was a lot of thoughts about death. No, it was, I mean, the circumstances were pretty special. So I was just about to move to San Francisco, so I had everything packed with me, and I'd been to LA for a YouTube event, and then I'd been to Vancouver to pick out my US visa, and then I did the red eye from Vancouver to New York, and I came there and I was on set for 10 hours, like from early in the morning, because they like switched around the schedule. So I had 10 hours of having slept for 3 hours and just being super tired and really nervous. So it was actually pretty, I mean, it is always like painful, but I feel like that always, I give a lot of talks, and always before I go on stage, I'm like, why do I do this to myself? It's always like, I always think that this is the time when everything is gonna go wrong. But they were so kind, and what I'm trying to always, when I do stuff like that, is like especially with somebody like Stephen Colbert, you try to remind yourself that this is like, he's one of the best in the world at doing what he's doing, and we share the responsibility of making it fun and interesting. So you're like in really good hands, is what I'm trying to remind myself of. But it's really scary because I brought 4 machines, and just making sure that all of them, I mean, like live demos, like they never work. And just making sure that all of them would work reliably was really, I was more worried about that than like what I was gonna say or do. And yeah, but all the machines worked. And I always, like I've thought, because I've had times when the machine doesn't start. I did like back in Sweden, I did a live kids show. And like 5 minutes before we got on stage, the robot arm that I used for the breakfast machine just broke down. And it's like, you're like, what are you supposed to do? And that's like your responsibility. But I've just thought that like whenever it doesn't start, I'll just be like, shitty, right? And then it's okay.
So this sort of ties into, you went through Canada to come to the States and getting a visa. So Sweden makes these top countries to live in the world's list frequently. So what attracted you to the United States and specifically San Francisco?
I mean, so I lived in San Francisco 2 years ago when I had that maker in residence job. I just think it's a really fun place to live, and having a kind of weird job. In San Francisco, I don't feel weird. In Stockholm, I feel a little bit weird. But here it's like everybody's a unicorn. And I think that's really heartwarming. And also, I just love paying a lot in rent. It's this weird thing I get a kick out of, Yeah.
So, got to ask a question about IKEA because Sweden. So, if you could go into IKEA and get a debit card paid for by someone else, you can buy anything you want, including the meatballs. First of all, would you want to do that? Second of all, what would you build with anything you could buy at IKEA?
I like very rarely buy stuff at IKEA, but I have gotten away. I have gotten away with a lot of times. I trick people that if you're Swedish and you lose your passport, you can go to IKEA and it works as a Swedish embassy. You can get a new one.
Nice.
But what would I build? I mean, I've been wanting to, a project that I wanted to build and that I could build out of IKEA cards is I want to have a couch that you can lay down on, and then you have a seat belt that comes from the back, and you can like plug yourself into the couch, so you're like seated down, and then you can just drive to the fridge. Probably do that, yeah. For the very lazy person.
And what Swedish name would you give to that? Because all these, I don't know, is IKEA real Swedish words? Or is it just a
It's real Swedish words. I'd call it lättja.
Lättja?
Laziness.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so one more question from me,
Okay.
and then the audience gets to take over. So if you could have a cameo in one of the following, which would you choose and why? So Star Trek, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, which you're a recent convert to, or at least recent viewer of.
Oh, you know so much.
Or Sharknado.
Lord of the Rings, hands down,
All right,
without
why is
a
that?
doubt.
Why does Lord of the Rings win?
I was a huge Lord of the Rings fan when I was younger. I went through an elvish phase. Yeah. And I had a huge crush on Orlando Bloom. Yeah, so I do it just to make 14-year-old Simone proud.
All right, Lord of
Yeah.
the Rings, if you're going to do episode 7, not The Hobbit, then here you go.
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to grab my computer so we can do some Dory questions, which is our online question answering tool. And then Samara from the Google News team is going to help out with microphones.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I was, I wouldn't do a cameo. I wanted to do a voiceover, or like, I'd love to do a voiceover for Adventure Time. It's one of my favorite TV shows.
Yes.
And as soon as I put it out there, I realized that they're about to discontinue the show, and they've already recorded the last episode. It made me so sad.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, so first question out here.
Okay, you spoke briefly about the relationship between advertisers and content creators as it relates to the quality of the work, and I wanted to just hear a little bit more about your thoughts about that.
How it relates to the quality of the work that you put out as a creator?
Yeah, and how creators can survive well, in this relationship and what that does to the creator.
I think, it's definitely, you just need to find sponsors who are fully okay with what you're doing and who don't. I think it's as soon as you have companies come in and tell you what you can and can't do creatively, maybe some people are better at handling that, but because you're such a, like, as a YouTuber especially, often you're your own producer, you're your own writer, you're the on-camera talent, the camera person, and having somebody be like, oh, you can't say that, is just really weird. And I think also, like, what a lot of companies that aren't very accustomed to the field are working with online talent, what they don't understand is, like, the audience is completely accustomed to this person being the way that they've always been, and as soon as you start altering that, that's immediately gonna be like, people are like, it's like when your parents like snuck in medicine in your drink and you're like, it's like something weird about this, like you're trying to get something down with me. So I think it's a lot of that. Like, I think the most successful companies, something like Audible does, or where they're just like, yeah, you do whatever, like we don't really judge what you do, or like, within a range, but yeah, I think that's the way to do it, because as soon as you get the legal team involved, they're like, we can't do this, we can't do this, we can't do this, you can't do this. So I think it's just being conscientious of what companies you choose to work with and making sure that they are very well understanding about the type of content you make.
Cool. So I'm going to take one from the Dory, and then we'll go back in the room. So
will I put a dildo on it?
Oh.
No, stop asking. Come on.
So this is actually a Google that's watching from Google Boston. Hello, Google Boston. Before working here, I was a TA, teaching assistant for a robotics class. Your videos definitely helped motivate me to build stuff in the job, which in turn helped me get into Google, so thank you. Well, that's not really a question, but that's a compliment.
Oh,
there you go.
thank you. That's good to hear. Yeah.
All right, so a question from the room?
Hi.
What? Oh, there you go.
There we go.
Hey.
Yes.
So thanks for talking. I just wanted to know how you find inspiration for your ideas and what to do next.
So thanks for listening. I find inspiration, a lot of it spurs from everyday problems I have, and just being, I'm just a very ambitious, lazy person, I think. So I go through lengths to help myself with the everyday problems that I have. It's a lot that, but more recently I find like there's just so much shit going on in our world, and that I feel needs shitty robot solutions. Like I did a pussy grabs back machine, which was this arm, this plastic arm that went out for your crotch, and it was a mouse trap, and it was like, ding, pussy grabs back. And I think that like now I find a lot of inspiration just things that are happening in society. But I mean, most of it is also just like body maintenance, like maintaining your body in different ways, and like, yeah, most recently I did a manicure robot to help me paint my nails, and yeah.
And then the shampoo robot where you learn what it feels like to have your hair pulled by a robot.
Yeah, there was the wake up machine, I think, that my
Oh, it was
my
the wake-up
hair
machine that got tied in.
Yeah,
Yes,
got
yes,
tangled
yes.
up, and yeah, it was very humiliating and painful.
All right.
Yeah.
Yep.
My kids and I are big fans of your channel, so and also Patreon supporters. Have to ask, you're in San Francisco now again, and Burning Man. Have you been? Are you going? Seems like a natural.
I was there 2 years ago. Yeah, it was. Oh gosh, I'm doing that thing. I'm doing that thing that people who've been to Burning Man do, where it's like you can't really describe it. It was. No, I liked it a lot. It was very weird. It was such a mindfuck because you were like, would normal Simone do this or not? Like how. But also, I'm just like not that much of a party person. I get very tired, and I need to sleep a lot, and it's a long time, and it's just like a tricky thing. But I'm not going this year, but I might go in future years. It would be fun, and I feel like I'd want to build something big. Yeah.
Have any of your robots turned out to be not so shitty, kind of too useful to be funny? Because we all love when they go wrong, but I assume sometimes.
I actually the thing is, people get very upset with me if they're not shitty enough. So, for example, when Scott and I did the beer robot, one of the takes, so it was a robot, it like put down the cup and then poured up beer and like handed me the beer. It was one of the takes where it was still like spraying me with beer, but people were like, Simone, this isn't shitty enough. Like, what have you become? And they were like really disappointed in me that it worked too well. So, but yeah, usually, I mean, they just like most of them just really suck. So yeah, they're good at.
Well, it's almost the thing like you if you get more budget, I hope you keep it for yourself because you shouldn't invest it in your robot because that would totally kill it. I mean,
I'd want to invest in like stronger and bigger motors. Yeah.
Okay.
But
so
no.
just the scale of the shittiness would go up, but not the quality level.
No.
All right.
No, but I realized I have probably one of few jobs where the sentence, that was really shitty, great job, actually makes sense and isn't just passive aggressive. Yeah.
So we'll take a few more questions. So we got one back there. Yeah.
So Simone, you've told about how you've done a lot of different things, and I guess you'll continue to do a lot of different things, and it's really inspiring. But at the same time, it must have been pretty scary. So my question is, how did you practically go about finding out and doing the right research to become successful in all of these different things that you did? Because when you start doing something new, you might not have all the information. So did you just like go on Google and type in, how can I be an astronaut or something?
I've definitely not been successful at everything I've done. I've been pretty terrible at a lot of stuff. I worked as an MMA reporter. I was a pretty bad MMA reporter. I think the key thing and I understand, it's been a huge privilege, having supportive parents and growing up as a middle-class person in a country like Sweden, because I've had the opportunity to try out a lot of different things. And I think mostly what I realized is because I had this feeling that I was very duty driven, and I had this feeling that for it to be important, it has to be hard. It has to be a struggle, and you have to push yourself really hard. And then in my early 20s, I realized wait, but I'm a lot better at the things that I'm enthusiastic about and that I actually like and that don't really feel like work. So I think it was just that shift in perspective and trying to pursue the things that I feel that I'm good at and that I really enjoy doing, and that somehow feel a little bit guilty to be spending time on, to just do more of that, because that's you're obviously going to be better at that. Yeah, and to me, it's just building things that don't work.
over here.
Thanks. I'm not sure how much you like to predict the future, but I am very curious to know what you think the role of robotics will be in like theatrical performances and musical performances.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't actually know. It's an interesting thing because like I'm basically, I mean, I'm a hobbyist that happened to gain a following, and often I get like interview questions about like what is the future of artificial intelligence, and I'm like, I'm not an authority in this field, but I think that definitely, I mean, people have this urge to create everything that we have around us into comedy. And I think that as we are more surrounded by technology, that definitely gets integrated into the arts more. So, I mean, I'll do a shitty robot show. I might even sing a little bit. So.
Now, have you been to Maker Faire in the Bay Area?
I have, yeah, but I'm going to miss it this year, unfortunately.
Oh,
yeah.
so Maker Faire, still go, but next time.
Yeah.
All right, let's take one more. We have one more audience question right back here.
I want to ask you if one of your creations were to gain sentience, which one would you be most afraid of, and or which one would be the happiest of having them become?
Ooh, drone hair cutter. That would be my nightmare.
The drone hair cutter, that would be a good one. Yeah. But I think probably Megabots made, they have these huge fighting robots, and they made a chopping machine extension for their robots, so it's like 8-foot long knives. I feel like having that one run after me would probably be pretty terrifying. I chopped up an oven with it. I think that one, and the one I'd most want to have sentient, probably the applause machine. Because if it knew by itself, like when it needed to clap and not, that would be great. It'd be like the perfect audience. Yes. Yeah. I'd swap all of you out for the applause machine. No.
You're all going to be.
Yeah, you're all going to be replaced. So how many takes it takes for me to get it? So usually, I mean, I've like transitioned a little bit from that, but usually what I did in the start, I did it only for the GIF. And that's like the whole filming the video is that I can get a little GIF of this project working. And I think like the Wake Up Machine, sometimes I do like 20 takes. And the Wake Up Machine was really, now it's nicer because I have Scott who's sitting over there who helps me and can be like, okay, that was good or that wasn't bad, because otherwise it's just me and I'm like running back and checking that everything was in frame. And but yeah, it does take a fair amount of takes. I think the worst one was actually the lipstick robot. So I had a robot arm put lipstick on me, and I think I did just like 5 to 10 takes on that one. But in between each take, I was like covered in lipstick, and I had to like wipe it off and like try and cover it up with more makeup. And at the end of it, I had like the worst rash in my face because I just like had like layers and layers of lipstick, and I just had to like scrape it off. So I think that was actually the most painful one. And yeah.
So the cover-up machine to go along with the lipstick machine, that would actually be useful.
You know what? It worked too well, so I was like, this is like way off brand. I can't show this. No. Yeah, but that would have been something.
Yeah. It just, again, though, it sounds too useful, so.
Sounds too useful.
Yeah. They're not as
a lot of people, a lot of people do useful things. I can't compete with that. Like, I can't. But it's just like, it's all about finding a field that's small enough so you can be at the top of it.
You have cornered the useless market. The useless market
be the best at something, so you just gotta find it's like narrow enough so you're like, okay, I can actually like climb to the top of this thing.
Useless enterprises.
Oh, I mean, I can't say that I'm the number one. No, there is a few people who do stuff like that. There's a guy who's like really doing well. His name is William, and he does, he mainly does like laser cutting stuff, but he does like really weird stuff. Like he did a ham and cheese sandwich of Vin Diesel that was like laser cut layers of just ham. So he just like laser cut a bunch of ham, and it turns into this like Vin Diesel model. I think that there's also a Canadian guy runs the useless duck company. So you might have seen it. It's like a baby feeding machine where there's like an app connected, and there's like a little bottle that goes up to a crib, and the baby's like standing. It's all a doll, and the bottle just like punches the baby in the face, and it falls over.
Well, I want to thank you for trekking down to the Googleplex today and sharing your stories, and for everyone who turned out online and virtual in Boston. So thank you very much. It was great having you here.
Thanks for letting me come. Thanks for showing up. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.